Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this modern login screen for your phone and as well as for the desktop. So here for the tutorial, we might not be able to add the logos here due to the time, but here this is what we're going to be creating in this tutorial. So here we have some properties here that you can easily toggle on and off for this input. Here you see we can actually hide the label if we don't want this label to be visible. And I can bring that back here. We can decide to change if it's a dark mode or we want a light mode. Here as well, you can also check this and see we have the asterisk here to indicate that a particular field is required. If it is not required, you can just toggle that off and then you see it's gone. And I can just bring that back on here. So here we can as well check this field. If this is not a password field, you can just come in here where we have the password. You can just toggle that off and then it's going to disappear. So if you're new to my channel, kindly hit the subscribe button for more updates like this. So this is not just going to be for the mobile version. We also have the PC screens here. So I'll guide you through how to create this reusable component. So without wasting much of your time, let's get into it. To get started, I've created this color palette that we're going to use throughout this project. So we're going to create a local styles for this so that we can easily reuse them. So now you can pause the videos and create all these palettes. So once you're done, so double click to select this blue color. So now click on this icons here and then click on the plus sign here. So now you're going to get the color and I'm going to name this primary like this. Then we can as well double click on this background here. Make sure you're selecting the rectangle and then you can click on this and then the plus sign. This is going to be BG dark. So I'm going to do the last one here and then double click again so that I'll fast forward the video so that we don't spend time doing this. So for the last one here, I just renamed that to white. So now after creating the color palettes here, I think we are done with this. I can drag this. So now let's start by creating a text. So I'm going to click on the text sign here and I'm going to enter your email address here. So now after adding this, let's change the color here for this. This want it to be gray somewhere here. Now we need to increase the size of this here. I'm going to add this. So maybe set that to like this. So now let's use 290 for this. So for the text, I'm going to push this to the end here. Now let's wrap this in a frame. Now we have a frame here. So for the frame, I'm going to set the width of the frame to 350. And then for the height, I'm going to set that to 48. So now we can add a fill to the frame. So I'm going to select this and then add the white fill. So for this item here, we can actually center that here. So let's quickly add some paddings to this. To do that, we're going to add a layout grid to this. And then I'm going to add a column. So this time I'm just going to use 2 columns here. And then for the margins, I'll set that to 20, which are going to be our radius. So now this is going to be our padding inside. So this is going to start here and I need to add one more item here. So for input fields like password, we have the eye icon here. So let's go back to our resources tab and I'm going to search for iconify. Now click on the results here and wait for this to load. Once this is loaded, I'm going to search for eye. So let's look for the icon we want. So 4, go to 5. So I want to use this particular icon. So I will drag that and then drop this here. And as well as I want to use other icons like Apple logo. So let's just drag that and then drop this here. I want to use Google logo. So I'm also going to drag this and then drop this here. Then let's search for asterisks. Search that and I'm going to pick this and then drop this here. So I think these are the 3 or 4 icons we are going to use for this project. So but we need this at the moment. So I can drag this here. And the first thing I want to do is to make sure that this, I'm separating this from the frame. So you can select this item here. I'm just going to drag it to the bottom. Make sure it's outside this frame so that when you hide this frame, you see it's not part of this. So we can delete this eye. So I have this eye icon here alone. So I can drag this and then drop it somewhere here. So let's lock this here and then try to change the height of this. So I'm going to use 6 for this. Okay, that's too small. Sorry, 10 should do. So I'm changing that to 10. So now we can align this here. So now let's select this frame and then hide the grid since they are all aligned now. So I'm going to change the color of these two items. So probably here, I think we should have the color selection set to. So I'm going to work with this. Let's make this a little bit lighter because it's an input field now. So it's supposed to be muted. So if that is muted, I think I can select this, press I, and then select this here to pick that color. So now we have our input field. So the next thing we want to do here is to use constraints since we're not setting this in an auto layout, because if I drag this, we need to set the constraints. So now I'm going to select this eye icon here and then make sure that on the left and right axis here. So let's do something. This is 350. Let's drag this. You notice that the size of the icon will start changing. So, but I don't want that. So to change that, I'm going to come here. Instead of scale, I'm just going to say set this to the right. So if the user is increasing this screen like this, this icon will not be affected. So these are constraints in frames. So I'm going to do the same thing for this. Okay, this has already been set to left. But if the user is going up and down, this item should remain at the center. So we have this, and I think we should have the same settings for this. So for this top and right, it should be center. So now if you increase the size of this here, you see we have our design. If you go this way here, we still have our design maintaining the border we've assigned to them. So I'm going to undo that, and then I'm having the settings here, 350 and then 48. Now let's add one more item here. So I'm going to add a label here. So because this is light mode, we can just pick any dark color that we've set here. So input dark. Then I need to work with this asterisk here. So I'm going to double click, select this asterisk, and then remove it from the frame. So I'm just going to drag that to the top here, then delete this frame. Now I can drag this asterisk here. So let's reduce the size of this to, let's say 4 or 5, because we need this to be small. And then the next thing is, let's just change that color to red. So I don't have any red here, so I'm just picking a random red just to show that the fill is required. So once we have these two items, let's select this, Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So make sure that it is aligned to the top here. If it is here, it's going to be somewhere at the center. So we're going to align this to the top. Once you're done with this, now we can set this to, let's just rename that to label here. Now we have our form and then all the properties. So let's add some border or corner radius to this. Come in here, we're going to set this to 8 to add a corner radius. Then let's add a stroke to this. This is going to make that look more attractive. So I'm going to click a plus sign here to add a stroke. Then let's set the color here to border white. So now you see I have my input field with a nice looking border. So we're going to select this item here and then here. Let me just grab them together, and I'll make sure they are aligned to the left, and I can right click and frame them together, or you can put them in an auto layout by pressing Shift A. So but I'll just frame these items here. So after framing this, I'm just going to rename this to input. Once I've renamed this, we can convert this to a component now and add some properties to this. So let's push the space in between these two items here. That's too much. So let's see, 6 looks good. Let's convert this to a component. After converting this to a component, now we can add properties to this. So the first thing, we want to add a property here that's for the placeholder. Select this once you get the text here, somewhere here. So click on this, and then this is going to be our placeholder. So now we have our first property. Then The next one is going to be the label here. So now click here. Make sure you're selecting the text label. Then you can have this. This time you're going to create a property. So by default, the computer realized that that's a text. So we have a text property. This is going to be label. So the default value, we can set that to label. Now the next thing is this asterisk here. So this should be optional. If the field is required, we want this to be visible. If the field is not required, then this should be hidden. So we're going to create a Boolean variable. So to do that, we can just select this item here and then add a property here, then select Boolean. Or you can double click to make sure you're selecting the asterisk. Then I'm just going to scroll down to this layers, click on this, and then we can create a property here. So now this is going to be required like this, and by default, let's set every field to required, so true. So I'll show you the other way you can add this. So let's select this. We need this also to be optional. So now you can select the whole component here and then try to add a property. This time we are adding Boolean because it can be true or it can be false. So here, this I'm going to set that to password. That's if it's a password. So by default, this should not be a password. So I'm going to set that to false. Then we can create this property. Now after creating this, you see this is telling me that, okay, this is actually not in use in this component. So we have to use the password property. So to use that, I'm going to select this icon here, double click till you select, or you can click on command and select this eye icon here. So now once you select the icon here, you're going to click on the layer here. Once you do that, you're going to get these two options. So now we're going to apply the password to this. So I'm going to select this. So the moment I've applied that, you see the password field is gone. Now let's try to use this in a mobile screen and see how it looks. So now let's go back, click on the frame, and then let's add an iPhone 14 Pro or 15 Pro. Go back to the asset tab and then drag this item and then drop it here. So I'm just going to center this. So for this input, I'm just going to set this to email. So now you see we have some properties required. So if I set this field is not required, you see the asterisk is gone. And if I select this and set this is a password field, you see we have an icon here. So let's select this and then this is required and then this actually is not a password. So let's duplicate this item here. So I'm just going to rename the first one here to full name. Full name. So you see we have that. So here change address. So I'll just enter your full name. So we have this. Then we can as well just double click here. Sorry, duplicate that. And then let's change this here to phone. So we can tell the user here to enter their phone number. Phone number here. So we have this. So the last item on our list should be the password. So now I'll select this. I'll change this to password. And here we can, the placeholder here, I can set that to password. Sorry, I'm typing in the wrong position. So I'm going to set this to password here. So now we need to toggle this on. So we have the icon here for the password. So now that we have this, I can select this to the 4 items here. Try to put them in an auto layout by pressing Shift A. So let's adjust the spacing between them. So there are input fields where you don't need the label. So if you don't need the label, remember we grouped this label earlier together. So now we can as well add a property to this label by coming here. Let's scroll down where you have the layer, click on this layer, and then let's just create a property here. So it's going to be show label here. So by default, it is set to true. So if I come in here and I select any of this item, we should have the show label, which by default it is turned on. So if I turn that off, you see our show label, it's gone. So now let me just drag one item. Let me select this and undo that, show the label here. So now we have the properties. Let's duplicate this and then create a dark mode. So we already have a dark background here on our color palettes. So let's say BG dark. But after creating this actually doesn't look good on a black background. So let's create the black mode. So I'm going to click on this, and then let's create a variant by selecting this plus sign here. So for the variant, I'm going to double click in here, and then first of all, we need to change some of the colors. So for our white background, I'm going to change it to input dark. Then for our border, I'm going to change it to border dark. After that, I think we're good to go with every other thing. Then the label color here, I think I'm going to change that to white. So once we have this, we can just do some settings here. I'm going to select this here. Okay, let's select this first item here. Default, I'm going to change that to light. Then select this one. Instead of variant 2, we're going to change that to dark. So instead of property 1 here, we can change that to theme. So if we come back to this art design here, I just need to select this item here, and then we have this option light right now. So I selected dark mode. I'll do the same thing for this other one, dark mode. Select the dark mode, select this other one, and then we can pick the dark mode here, and then we do the same thing here, and I have the dark mode. So you see we have our dark inputs, and we can easily toggle between the light mode and the dark mode. So the next thing is to create a button for this two designs. So now I can drag this here and then try to create a new button with the same properties. So here I think I'm just going to set the width to 350 and then the height to 48 like I did earlier. So 48. So now we have this, and then let's set the border radius here to 8, and then I'm going to add a text inside this. So but this text I'm going to, let's say, login or sign in, which is going to be dark. So let's add a color to this, primary, and let's bring this in here. Once we have this, we need some options for this. If this is because we're going to have icons on this button. So let's drag one of these icons. Let me highlight these icons that we have here and then drag them here. Let me zoom in. So let's adjust the sizes of these icons. So for this, we can lock this, and I will set this to, let's say 18. Let's see how 18 is going to look. Then for this, I'm going to set this to a lower number here. Let's say 12 because of the size of the icon. So I think we can go a little bit up so that it's going to fit in with this. So I'm going to go a little bit up here. So let's say 16 looks good for this. So the next thing is, okay, let's go 15. I'm not a fan of 15, but okay, let's use 14. So select this and convert this to a component. So convert this as well to a component. So here I can just rename that to Apple. Then here I can have Google here. So let's go back to the asset tabs here. You see we have the Apple and then the Google. So let's drag this item here. I'm going to drag this Apple and then drop this here. So this is inside a frame. So let's select these two items and then press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So let's try something. Let's say if we add more text login to our portal here. So and we select this group because now it's a group, and we try to center this. Let's make sure, okay, this is working fine. So this is going to be our item here. So in case if this is not visible, let's hide this Apple icon here. You see this is going to adjust automatically toward the center. So I'm going to undo that. So let's convert this to a component. So here I'm going to convert this to a component, and I'm going to rename this to a BTN. Once I've done that, the next thing is to add some properties. So this here, double click to select the text, and then let's add here. So let's say text or title here. Then for this logo here, let's add a property first to that. So I'm going to create an instance property, the instance swap. So this is going to be BTN icon here, so that we can easily swap that with other icons. So once you've done that, let's scroll down to the layer here. So now it's going to be show icon. So now we can set that by default. We don't want the icon to be visible on our button. So I'll create that and I'll set that to false. So you see automatically the icon is gone. And then we can now use this button on our design. So we can go back to assets and then drag this and then drop this here. So let's say we are having this somewhere around this portion here. So we can actually change the details here. So this is going to be sign up here. So I have my sign up text. So you can adjust the size of the text here so that it fits into your project. So now we want to add login with either Google or an iCloud account. So to do that, our button here, I'm going to select this and then duplicate this, then drag this down here. Now we need to show the icon here, and then I will just change this to continue with Google, like this. So now we have the continue with Google, but we don't want this color here. So let's create a variant for this. I'm going to select this and then add a plus sign here. So this is going to be a light mode for this. So now let's first of all remove the background color here. So after removing that, we're going to add a stroke. So this stroke, we're going to set the color to, so I'm going to use this instead, our border light. That's for the light mode now. Then for our text here, I'm going to set that to the dark color. So I'm going to set that to dark. So I think I'm going to use this border dark here so that it doesn't look too dark. So now coming back here, we can select this and then set some properties here for our design. So let's select this here. This is going to be our primary. So here, instead of property 1, you can just say BTN type or BTN style or theme. So now select this here. This is going to be, okay, we have the light mode already. So I'm going to come back here to my design, and then instead of primary, I'll change this to light mode. So for the icon, you have the option for BTN icon. So I can click on this and then select the Google icon. So you see we have the continue with Google. So as well, I can select this and then duplicate this, then drag this down here. So this is going to be continue with Apple. Press enter, then I'm going to change the icon here to Apple here. So we have continue with Apple and then continue with Google. So we can drag this down here and then try to add a little design here. So let's select this to press Shift A. I want the spacing between them to be, okay, 12. So we can just copy this and then paste this here. So let's see, select this, copy this, and then I'll paste this here. So now we have this item here, but it actually doesn't look good. So because we're using the light mode on the dark section. So let's create another one here. So I'm just going to select this particular one, then press Ctrl D to duplicate. So this is going to create another variant for me. So here I'm just saying light. Let's just see the name we gave this one here, light. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be dark. So now for the dark, we are going to change the border radius first here. So we should have our dark border. Then for the text color here, this is going to be white. We're going to set that to white. So now if we come back in here, I'm going to select each and every one of this. Instead of light, we can set that to dark. So I'm going to do the same for this. Instead of light, I'm going to set that to dark. So now you see we have the items here. So for the color of our Apple icon here, I can double click here and then make sure that I'm changing the selection color to white, like this. So on some designs, you see that they might use a gray color for this button. So you can as well create a gray background that if you want a general color. So I can select this last one here, Ctrl D, and then we can just set that to general. Now we can just fill this with a gray color. So I can just add this since we don't have any gray color here. Let's try to create a gray color here, somewhere here. And then for the border, I think I'm going to hide this, or you can just set that border to the gray color, which is a good practice. Then for the color here, I'm going to set this to, instead of white, we can use any of the dark here. Let's use this and see. So at this point now, if I select this, let's say we have another dark mode here or another light mode. Let's do this. Then we can select this here and then change this to general here. So you see we have the general color that you can use, whether it's a dark mode or a light mode. So we can use the general. So let's see how this is going to appear on the dark mode. So I'll double click on this. Instead of the dark, we set that to general, and I'll set this also to general. So but for this we just have to also work on the icon color here. So I'm set that back to black. So the selection here, I'll set this back to dark or any other colors here. Please let's use this dark color here. So now this is how to create a reusable component, and then you see how easy it is. So now let's say we are having a a desktop screen, and then we want to extend these items. Now I'm going to add a desktop screen, and then let's see how we can utilize this. So this is going to be a MacBook Pro 14-inch, and let's quickly do something here. I'm going to change this color to this blue. So no need, we can just use the fill here and set that to this. So I'll press V so that I'll go back to the normal mode. So let's add a frame inside this computer here. So let's set that color here to white. So now let's quickly do this. I'm going to cover this and then do this as well. So let's say we can have input fields here, but I want a bigger set of input fields for this desktop. So what I'm going to do here is we have this. I'm going to bring this here somewhere at the top, press Ctrl D, and I've duplicated this item here. When I drop this item here, what I will do here, I want to directly, let's say, edit some of the properties here. And the only thing I want to adjust here is the width. So I'm going to make this 445. So here I'll do the same thing here. Let's say 445. So here, let's make this an even number. So let's make this an even number. That's going to balance. So instead of just input, so I'm just going to set this to input here. I'll just say PC like this. So now I should be able to, adjust this. Let me drag the input PC here and then drop this item here. Now let's drag this and then drop this somewhere here. Now once we have this, let's come back here and do some work. Let's drag this, do the same thing, select the whole of this and then drag this here so that it covers the frame. So now for this input PC, we can do the same thing, or we can create a component set, but I'm not going to do that on this tutorial. So the same thing here, we can set this to email. Then I can duplicate this. We can have our password. Then, okay, full name. Then I can duplicate this and then add a phone. We have a phone here, so I think I'll just select these items quickly and then Shift A to put them in an auto layout, because I don't want the tutorial to be more than 30 minutes. So let's set this to 12, and let's rearrange this a little. Just drag this to the top here, phone, email, and select this field here. Let's double click to select this, and then this should be a password field. Now we can do the same thing for our buttons here. I'll select the buttons here and duplicate this, Ctrl D, and I'm just going to change this to BTN PC. So now once you've done that here, we can just double click on each of this item here. Let's just drag this. Let me increase this first. Select this item here, and then let's change this to 448. Yes, we have that. The same thing for this, and we can select this group selection here. Do this, and then this is going to be 448. We have this designs now here. So this BTN PCs, we can just drag one of the BTN PCs here. So we have our first BTN here, which is going to be this, and I'm going to duplicate this and then have this other item. So we can just change this to either general. Please, here I want us to be able to just log in with Google on the web. So if you want to add the, let's say, light, this is light mode here, and then show icon, we want to show the icon, and then this should be the Google icon. So you see we have our nice looking portal here. You can add logos here and then some pictures here, and this is going to look very nice. So now let's quickly create a dark mode for this PC version here. So I'm just going to drag this and then set this here again. So for the white background here, I'm going to scroll down here. Instead of white, I'm just going to set that to BG dark. Then for our input, we can just easily do that. I can select each of this item here. So here I'm just going to set that to dark mode, and then I'll do the same thing for this. Set this as well to dark mode. You see all the properties that follow our initial design. So here we can select this other section here, and then instead of primary we can just add any of the colors. So I'm just going to use the input dark here. Then we can add any of our design here, or if you have any other thing you want to add. So let me just keep this. We can as well just do this. So I think I have a sample file that I created earlier, so let me just copy whatever was there and then paste it here. So now I've just copied that. So let's select this where we have the primary. Let's just add the input dark here, and then I'm going to paste the design I had earlier. So you can just do something like this because of our time frame. That's why I'm just trying to rush this tutorial here. And this is how you can create reusable components. For more advanced tips like this, please kindly hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.